All right, I'm a little bit pressed for time, but I wanted to talk about how about Dragon Ball GT though? What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Legends video. Today we're talking about Dragon Ball GT and its characters in Dragon Ball Legends, and when I think they'll probably wind up getting a new release. Fun fact, I believe they haven't seen a new character release all year long. I actually think their most recent release was what, Legends Festival? Right? Because the Oob and Goku came out like what? Post anniversary? Was that post Legends Festival or post anniversary? So the ones that they've seen this year are probably like free characters, but like a new summonable character I don't think has come to this team. So I've always said it, but if you are a GT main, unfortunately, up until this point, Legends has always kind of given them a premium time slot, whether that's anniversary or Legends Festival. They've given them a premium time slot. But the problem is that unlike a lot of other teams like Movies or Future, which by the way, Future hasn't really gotten a buff in a long time anyway, which I'm not complaining about, but unlike some of these other teams, GT always gets like a handful of characters or Zenkais and a few characters, whatever it is, you know, their little balance change to their team, if you will, the buff to their team, and then they leave them by the wayside for another 10, 11 months, and then they do it again. So that's the problem, because this game has rampant power creep. I mean, if you just look at the characters that released throughout the years in Legends, like start of the year, end of the year, crazy shenanigans have taken place throughout Legends' lifespan. And this year is actually, I accidentally clicked a little pop-up on my computer. This year is actually no exception. I mean, look at the characters that have released this year in Dragon Ball Legends. At the end of last year for Legends Festival, shout out to this guy, a year old officially in a few days here, we got him, and he's still holding on strong, pretty solid, but we have some insane freaking characters in the game now that are just undisputably better, and he's a freaking Ultra. So like, end of the year, beginning of the year, things like that. So anyway, I wanted to talk about Legends and Dragon Ball GT because while that's been the case, I do think Dragon Ball GT is on the short list of things to expect for quarter one, if you would call it that. The beginning of next year, right? The first couple of months of next year, I think they're on the short list. Maybe even as recent as Battle Hour, which is going to be on the 27th, 28th, and this is their yearly little Dragon Ball events thing where they showcase all the Dragon Ball games and stuff like that. Also, Sandland is here getting a promo for the first day, which is kind of cool, actually. I like that. They have a whole day, just a whole night, I guess, just Sandland for a few hours, 8 p.m. until, I guess, anyway, whatever. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, Dragon Ball GT will probably be what I have here in this time slot because, like I said, they haven't gotten any new characters this year. Now, I wanted to kind of talk about what this could potentially be, and I wanted to throw out some fan graphics that I saw recently. Shout out to KJ and a few other people that are going to be in this video, maybe a couple other people. But nonetheless, I thought this was a pretty cool concept. Revival Unique Gauge Super Saiyan, Super Full Power Saiyan 4 with the Aura. Goku there, okay. Revival Goku, I think that's a cool idea. Super Saiyan 4. Also a Zenkai for Super Saiyan 3 Kid Goku. Not sure about that Gogeta Zenkai. I imagine he gets the Zenkai like soon, like maybe in this celebration, right? Type deal. Anyway, Unique Gauge counters RR. So a Blue Ultra that also has the tap mechanic on it, by the way. That's kind of cool. Unique Gauge counters RR first, 30 counts of battle, avoid ult, and SP, 1 use of each, and 20% ult damage. Each gauge fills max 3 times. So a Blue Ultra Super Saiyan 4, a Revival Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Is this enough though? Simply put, no. Simply put, no. And then they're doing the blue character Zenkai, similar to how we've seen other characters like that Gogeta release, that Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta release, where they Zenkai the Super Saiyan God Vegeta, right? You know, they often do that oftentimes. In fact, they've done it this celebration. Anyway, so is that enough? Certainly not. But that's a good baseline, right? That's a really good baseline, particularly if both of those characters in this idea wind up being top 5 characters or so. That is a really good baseline. But I mean, if you look at what they even have, another problem with them taking huge hiatuses from this team is that every time they come back to it, they have to rebuild the team from the ground up because the previous characters are just bad, right? And so this year, by the way, this means that I think next year, if they do start with GT, GT could be the team that they finally go all in on. So the reason, if you're wondering why they don't even really like go all in on GT in the first place, is because GT is not all that popular in Japan. That's everything I've heard from people that work on this game and other Dragon Ball titles, is that it's not like the hugest thing. People like some of the forms, they like, Super Saiyan 4s and stuff, but as a series, it's not all that popular. Some of that's probably also because it's super duper old, things like that. But nonetheless, not saying that to like make you hate GT, or if you are a GT truther and it's your favorite series. Not trying to, crap on it. That's not my point. My point is that's why they don't really do it. A lot of what they do in this game is heavily incentivized by, well, you guessed it, but money. So GT also, the fun fact with GT is that even when it was paired with Future, now it wasn't the best character, it was Merge Zamasu, but when they paired it with Future, that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta anniversary was their worst selling anniversary. Out of every anniversary, that was their worst selling one. It was just flat out one of their worst celebrations ever, revenue-wise. And that was freaking Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So if that tells you anything about GT, that's all you need to know. It's just flat out, GT doesn't sell well for them. However, hopefully, this year, despite what I just said, they decide to make GT the next team that they hyper-focus on. If you look at what they did this year with Universe Survival Saga in particular, it was really, really interesting. Because this is the first time I can say that, at least in recollection, that they have gone to a team over and over and over and over throughout the year. Now, Future comes pretty close, but I think this is even more than Future gets in a normal span. I'd have to go back and check the actual amount of characters and like Zenkai releases, stuff like that. But they went to this team repeatedly this year. From the beginning of the year with releases like 17, Revival Goku, Roshi, and then into the anniversary with Goku and Frieza, Jiren, Casserole, and also some in-between releases, right? So in-between stuff, Zenkais, whatever. And then they finish it off with Legends Festival. They gave this team everything all year long. Shout out to Movies, because Movies is always in that same slot too. I guess Movies and Future are the ones that you look at when you're like, well, they're the teams that they always go back to. Movies is in that spot though, because Movies is a team that just it's the team that they can build endlessly. It's the only tag in the game that they can go to endlessly and not have it feel repetitive. Why? Because there's freaking 20 movies, something like that. There's so many characters they can pull from, and they're all just in one bunch. Now they did start trying to recently try to separate them by producing tags like sagas from the movie, superhero exclusive, things like that. But that doesn't really matter a ton because it's still one big conglomerate of characters, right? So GT could be in that next spot if they decide to do the same thing again next year, where they don't just take one team and buff it for a couple of months or like a month and a half and call it quits until the end of the year, basically, or the next year, but where they go back to it repeatedly, right? Because GT is an interesting group because they have done a lot of GT-based stuff, but there's still a lot of stuff they haven't done in this series, and also variations of characters that they haven't really done. I mean, for example, GT first and foremost doesn't even have a summonable Ultra. There's that. I mean, whether that's Goku, Vegeta, Gogeta, whatever that is, they still have that as a possibility, right? They give us a tag Goku and Vegeta, that's fine. They also have more options for a lot of other things that they can do. There's Shadow Dragons that aren't in here. Our newest super baby is what? The green one, right? That's like our newest baby Vegeta. I swear. No, maybe the EX. The EX. But like, dude, look at this. Look at this. They could easily print another GT Vegeta. You know what? They don't even got crap from this saga in the game. All these characters are mad old. All of them, except for maybe the EXs and these front two. But you get my point. So like, this is something that's like completely underrepresented stuff that they can go back to. There's a lot of potential here, and some of it just stems from the fact that, yet again, like I said, they have left this team by the wayside for so freaking long. Like I said, the problem with this team and trying to be a main of this team, if you will, quote unquote main, is that they leave it here, and then when you come back, your characters are outdated. I mean, you can still find use in maybe, who's the best aging character here? Super Saiyan 4 Goku, probably? You can maybe make an argument for the tag, but I think he's probably the one, to be honest. And then you can maybe find use in like the tag, obviously, Super Baby 2, and that's like it, dude. Like, most of these characters are not really going to have that. So what you really need to do is you need to Zenkai some of the newer releases, like Majub, like Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which was one of those things that was a part of that graph. And also, you need to find a way to produce more higher quality characters, because I don't think, like I said, 2 new characters and a Zenkai of the same color is enough, right? They obviously need more. They need more. But if it is going to be something that they do throughout the year, starting with Battle Hour, then I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, GT ultimately winds up getting a lot of stuff, because like I just outlined, there's stuff they haven't done, like Spirit Bomb Goku, a lot of other things as well. They've done most of GT, I guess, at least represented most of it, but there's still a lot of on the margins things they can do. And I'm also like, I mean, the fun thing with GT is like, what if like for the year they do the celebration, like I said, or the yearly buff thing with like they did with Universe Survival this year. And you know what? I'm just gonna say this. You know what my short list is for April Fools? It's either the Par Brothers or the Shotgun, Farmer with Shotgun. It's gonna be one of those two. I'm calling it now. But like even a little on the margins stuff like that they haven't done. So here's another example. This one's courtesy of Holly Molly Christmas. So this was an anniversary thing. I'm just gonna say I don't even want GT for the anniversary if they're not gonna do the same treatment, because I think a precedent has been set. Unless they start buffing them in like March, and then they give them some stuff until the anniversary, but then they keep going, right? Maybe September, things like that. They give them something else to keep the team feeling usable, right? I don't want to see them in anniversary just to have them be dead in the water like they've done every other time they've been a part of the anniversary. But here, this user has, you know, part 1 having... Oh, okay. I was like, wait, it's a really random baby there. It's like Saiyan, Saga, and GT is the theme, I guess. You get the spark. Oh, no. We're getting 1 LF, 1 sparking banners. No. No. Shout out to the Dokkan out here. Oh, also, they haven't done any of the possessed characters. That was one thing I was going to bring up. When I looked at the baby saga, it's actually super duper underrepresented. They haven't done jack crap from this saga. Like at all. This is super underrepresented. They basically just gave the main characters and called it quits. Where's Bulla? A big Bulla playable. I would like that for the girls team. Make it happen. They just they haven't done anything here. And also like characters like Rildo can get reprinted. There's just so much to do. So there's that. He was also giving that GT Goku a Zenkai, so that's cool as well. Part 2 apparently would have been full Majin Buu saga. Okay. Tag Goten and Trunks finally happening. What? Surprising we don't have one, by the way. And then part 3 being that Ultra Gogeta. So next thing I'll kind of bring up here is, since, I mean, I've seen people also like throwing out there like, oh, maybe we're gonna get dual ultras for the first time ever, and that's just obvious like mega supreme cope. but hey, maybe it'll happen, right? But that's mega crazy cope. But nonetheless, if it happens, I'll be damned, right? But like maybe we'll get something like that. But no, if we get the GT stuff for Battle Hour, I'm not so sure they're gonna come back with an ultra. So like they're in this weird spot where ultras, here's the fun thing with ultras this year had been monthly. Basically at most they were separated by like a month and a half at most up until the anniversary. And then when the anniversary happened, they even had a video and stuff where they were like, oh yeah, basically they implied that they're not going to be monthly despite them having been nearly monthly up to that point, which is funny because once upon a time they had that whole big old spiel about how it takes 3 months or whatever to produce these characters, and that probably is true, but the underlying, you know, tone that they didn't mention was that they didn't just start producing these characters then. They had a nice backlog, as any other company would have, before they even started publishing them. That's why the first characters were free, and they were also gapped out throughout the year until they finally dropped a summonable one at the end of the year, thus also giving them more of a backlog. Also, I'd imagine they have more than one character in production at a time, right? So anyway, moving on. So then they viciously this year, until anniversary, ramped up the schedule like crazy, right? And when anniversary hit, they were like, nah, we're done. And so there was a pretty sizable gap. After the anniversary, they dropped Vegito, which is somewhere in here. They dropped Vegito in the anniversary, right? And then they left that being what it was until freaking October. Wasn't the next one Kid Buu was on prior to Vegito, but the next one was Janemba, I believe, and he apparently came out in October. So there was a nice gap. And it's interesting to see that if we get an Ultra, like we are predicting, in the next few days here, that would be just about 2 months and not 2.5 months, but two months and like a week, I guess, which is, you know, faster or slower cadence than we had seen prior to Anniversary, but it's kind of in line with the gap between Vegito and Kid Buu. It was kind of similar to that because Kid Buu came out like on the April 30th, I believe. So it's almost like a similar gap there. So if the new gap they're trying to establish is something like that, then, you know, that's interesting. But that also leads to the next point. Well, then what happens with, again, Ultra, quote unquote, Ultra Gogeta Blue? He might just wind up getting pushed to Anniversary, because I'm not sure, based on the scheduling, because that would just be a month from now, right? Battle Hours in a month and a few days. I'm not sure that they would drop an Ultra for this, right? They would probably drop some LF or something fancy. It's nice looking, which is fair. I'd have to go back and look at what they dropped last year. Actually, you know what? Last year, didn't they preview like Rose or something? Isn't that what they did? No, but again, that's when they started pushing those Ultras on like a monthly basis, right? It was really bad at the beginning of the year. Like on the dot, it was a month. Then they started spacing them a little bit. Anyway, I'm not sure that they'll do that again, because they've tried to, in the second half of this year, slow down the releases is the point. So that means that Gogeta would probably wind up getting exported until like the Anniversary, which is what was shown in this image. And what that means is that might be the culmination of this team. So maybe they do a half a year mega buff thing, like I was kind of talking about, the year-long thing. Maybe they do half a year. But I think that could be kind of interesting. The point is, that team is in the mud. It needs a lot of help, and there's a lot of different ways they can improve it. But I want to hear from you. What do you think they should do? Ooh, that rhymed.